So focused lesson planning really is just about planning lessons around a concept or skill, element, or standard of music, and then pulling from a variety, of different resources, activities, methodologies, to provide students with this like wide-ranging opportunities to learn. And not only is it providing them with this wide range of opportunities, it also is creating an anchor or a focus for the lesson that allows students to be able to connect knowledge from activity to activity. So, it's giving them structure so they kind of know what they're talking about today. In your music classroom, but it also provides for variety so that you can do multiple different kinds of activities all centered around this one activity or concept or skill that you're trying to teach in your lesson for that day or that week. I will say that in my experience, kind of planning this way, that really this requires having a strong classroom management and behavior management system for it to be the most successful. We all have our pitfalls when it comes to classroom management or behavior management, but the more that you can have that kind of in control, and the better you can manage those, the easier it will be, especially during those transitions from different activity to activity. And having those management strategies in place will really amp up the activity time and the learning time that the students get to have, as opposed to having to stop the class to deal with some sort of classroom management issue or behavior management issue and then start back over again, so that really you're getting the full optimum amount of time with your students in order to teach the lesson. I made this visual that may help you understand exactly how this looks or works in a music classroom setting. As you can see, at the center of the lesson plan in the image on the right is the lesson focus. Again, this is a Georgia Standard of Excellence or a musical concept or an element of music that you plan to teach for a standoff lesson, or maybe even multiple lessons that extend across many weeks. Just kind of depends on the pacing of your classroom setting. You'll see surrounding the focus are multiple activities or skills or actions that you can pull from to engage your students in music making or learning surrounding that kind of main focus. These activities are always connected back to that focus, and the learning can be easily transferred from activity to activity because they're all centered around that main idea or main focus again. There are 6 activities that are listed here. However, this is just a guiding visual. It should be mentioned that some lessons may only have 2 or 3 activities because they last for a longer span of time, whereas other lessons may require more because they're shorter length of activities. It just kind of depends on the main purpose, the learning goals, and the focus of the lesson itself. I wanted to take the next minute or two to talk about some of the types of activities or skills that we consistently pull from as music teachers to engage our students in active music making and learning. These skills have been directly taken from the Georgia Standards of Excellence for Music, and if you notice, these skills really are verbs or action items that we use as almost as a template of sorts to incorporate activities into our lessons in order to increase engagement for our students. So, things like speaking and singing, playing and moving, evaluating, improvising, composing, arranging, reading and notating, listening and performing. Seeing these listed out allows us to kind of realize like how many variety of activities and ways in which we can teach music, all based around a certain topic or concept or focus in our lessons. Notice none of these things talk about a certain element of music. They're just actions or verbs in order to make that learning more reachable for students throughout the various activities that we can use in our classroom. So here's a more detailed example of how this kind of format of lesson planning can be used in the music classroom. As you can see in this image, the main focus here is melody. You obviously could get more specific by placing a certain standard from the Georgia Standards of Excellence as the focus, but for purposes of this presentation, we're just kind of looking at this broadly to be applicable to many music content areas. So this is just an example that we are planning for melody. So once you have that lesson focus or that main idea, you can kind of start pulling from various resources to fill the musical skills or activities that, again, kind of always connect back to that focus. So what activity can you incorporate in your lessons so that your students can have your students moving to melody, or reading and notating melodies, or composing their own melodies, or playing melodies on instruments, for instance? Because each activity connects in some way back to the focus, and again, in this case, melody, the students can easily transfer knowledge from about melody from one activity to another. So say you first kind of sing a song and it has a very specific intervallic relationship that you're looking for, to kind of get them to master a standard for some reason. And then you go into the how composing your own using those, composing your own melody using those certain intervallic relationships that you're teaching your students and that they're learning. So it really kind of prevents any confusion for your students about what they are learning in each lesson, because it's all centered around that main focus. So you may have sung a song, and then you go to composing, and you're not composing a rhythm, you're composing a melody, and so on and so forth. So it all just kind of gets focused again around that main concept or idea or skill in the center. And because there's a multitude of resources and strategies out there, and I'm under time constraints as I try to respect your time, I'm not going to be able to get into much detail about specific certain strategies and resources to use, because let's be honest, that would take forever, especially when we're just talking about one concept at a time. So that could, there's a great deal of resources for each kind of element in music. So it honestly could take forever. So instead, I'm going to, in the next couple of slides, I'm just going to provide you with some things to do your own research and reflection on if you see fit. Some things you may have heard before and some things you might not have, and that's totally fine. But this is the kind of time to self-reflect and kind of springboard your ideas for your upcoming lessons, in which you're kind of using this like focused lesson planning kind of model. And then after that, I'm going to provide some general applications for kindergarten through 12th grade music content areas.